Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Zero from TechDragon.info, and today we're going to do a bit of a special episode. I'm kind of going to wing it, so I have no idea how this is going to turn out. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. First off, the episode has nothing to do with this tank. This tank is not on there, if you've seen the title. Just want to say that I just got my T37. Woohoo! Still going to do a review on the Chaffee. I do have some gameplay. Not fantastic though. I've never really had an amazing game with this thing. I think ever since it got bumped down to tier 5, it kind of lost its edge, and it really is just a light tank. It's no longer the little special tank that it was before. At least I've never played it before, but I've seen and heard a lot of people talk about how it was before, before it got bumped, before all the light tank changes, before the new American light tank tree actually. And it just feels like it lost its edge, and it's not a bad scout, it's just nothing special. It's just a scout. So I feel like, yeah, so my review is not going to be all, fantastic-y, but yeah, I got something for you guys. So that will probably be this Wednesday. I'm going to release that video, probably. Anyways, just so you guys know, let's get on with the episode. So, disclaimer at the beginning here, this is my opinion, this does not reflect anything of, blah blah blah, you know what I mean. This is just purely for fun and just to show you guys my opinion on what I currently have in my garage, and I'll explain with every single one why. So, without further ado, let's start off here. And this might come as a shocker to you guys, but the first one, scroll, is the Tiger 2. Now, before you start screaming, like I said, I'm gonna explain. Hold on. If we look at the Tiger 2, the tank itself is not terrible. I'm not gonna say it's fantastic, but it's not terrible. But once you come from the Tiger, which I definitely love, this is, I don't even know what I have for a victory ratio on this thing. Only 53? Huh, thought that was more than that. Anyways, it's surprisingly low. I love the Tiger. I think it's a fantastic tank. I've had many ace tankers in this tank. And yeah, well, here, that should give you an idea. I love this thing, and I haven't even played it that much. Like I said, it was only 100 somewhat games. And I got this within 100 games, well then. So yeah, love this thing. Tiger 2, on the other hand, just feels like a disappointment. After you come from the Tiger, which is such an amazing tank, and just plays so well, it's not a heavy as in armor, but it just works, and its hit points are just good enough to actually take multiple hits. It has, for its tier, 1500 is a lot of hit points. And you get to the Tiger 2, which only has 1600. That's 100 more, that's it. That's all. And it was a good amount of hit points for its tier, but once you go up a tier and only get 100 more, that's not that fantastic. If we take a KV4, for instance, has 1650. It's not the worst 1600. It's definitely not the worst. T32 only has 1550. So, yeah, it's not the worst. It's just not fantastic. Coming from a tank that has a lot, and then the next upgrade only has a small boost and is pretty much mediocre again. So coming from awesome going to mediocre. And the same is with the armor. Now, it does have 150 frontal armor, supposedly, but, it's sloped and all that, but this thing gets panned all the time. This armor is paper. Side armor is exactly the same as the Tiger. Rear armor, I do believe, is exactly the same as the Tiger. If I'm not mistaken. Yes, both 80mm, the rear and the sides. So, what does this tank get? Well, it gets a better gun. I don't have the final gun on here yet. The final gun is more than likely going to be better. This is the final gun, yeah. So it gets better, but the tank isn't bad, don't get me wrong. It's just, after the Tiger, this tank is bad. And the E75, again, is an amazing tank. So this tank just feels like it's in between, and it's just not, It feels like it's slower than the Tiger. I'm pretty sure it is. Take a quick look. Supposedly the mobility is better on the Tiger 2. I don't know. Doesn't feel like it. I have the engine fully upgraded, and I have the tracks, but it does not feel like this thing is faster than a Tiger. I might be wrong, but in reality, it does not seem faster. I don't know. Overall, the thing just feels worse. The depression is 1 degree worse once you get the final turret and final gun. I don't think it matters which gun. It's a turret mostly that dictates the suppression, but it's 1 degree worse. The elevation is 2 degrees worse. So overall, this thing just feels like it's not quite it. Excuse me, I'm actually wrong. Back up. The depression is 1 degree better, and the elevation is 2 degrees better. My bad. And the Tiger one. Looking at the wrong side of the graph here. So it is actually better. Excuse me, but still, it just when you think of an E75, you think armor. When you think of a Tiger 1, you think fantastic gun, fantastic rate of fire, and good hit points. When you think of the Tiger 2, it's, I don't know. I don't really come up with anything when I think of this thing. It's just mediocre. So it's not that the tank itself is bad, it's just the tank before it is awesome, the tank after is awesome. This one just falls shy of greatness between the two. So that's why it made number 10. It's not a bad tank, it's just doesn't quite cut it. Next up, we have the Cheery. Yeah, I think a lot of you people know this tank. Some of you have played it, some of you never bothered. As you can see here, I have 68k experience. How much do I need? 111. Ugh. Eventually, someday, maybe I'll get through this thing, but this thing it's a kind of special. Now, the gun on this thing per se isn't bad. It's a 3-shot autoloader. 155 penetration is definitely workable. It's not fantastic for a tier 7, but it's workable. Damage 130, not a whole lot, but you do 3 of those, so basically you're doing 390 damage per clip, because you got 3 shells per clip. So it's not bad. Only 1 second load time between them. It's not bad. Total reload 10 seconds, definitely doable. Accuracy is okay, aim time's good. So the gun itself is not bad, but this thing cannot fight its way out of a paper bag. It is that bad. This tank cannot hold anything. The only way this tank works is if you're supporting your team. If you have a bad team that you can't support because they just suck balls, which kind of happens in tanks sometimes, you can't win with this tank because it's gigantic. Let's take a look here. This is an IS-2. This is a Cheery. This is a 110. This is a Cheery. This is an ISU 152. This is a Cheery. This thing is gigantic. This thing would be more of a heavy than is a medium. The speed on this thing is, yeah. Top speed is 42. It doesn't really reach it all that often. The engine is mediocre. It weighs quite a bit at 40 plus tons. And has no armor. 75mm at best. Well, you don't even get that much. So you have a tank that's, it's a medium tank that has mobility. The armor is pretty garbage, and the gun is good only in a supporting role. If you're one-on-one with somebody, they're gonna out-DPS you, and you will die. You can't out-DPS anything with this gun, because you have 390 damage, and then you have a 10-second reload. In that 10 seconds, they fire twice, and that 1200 hit points is not gonna hold up for very long. So you can't duel one-on-one with this tank if they can shoot you back. If you have cover and you can dive between your shots, maybe. But even then, you have 3 shells that don't have a lot of penetration. So 3 times you have a chance to bounce and do absolutely nothing. So 390 damage per clip? Yeah, if you can pen them. And hit them, because that 35 accuracy is not that fantastic either. So, this tank just falls shy in so many ways. Next up, at number 8, we have the 110. Now, before you start screaming again, let me explain. This has a very good reason. The tank itself is not bad, but I started off with this tank with 12 losses in a row. I still haven't recovered from that. 12 losses. 12, yeah. Without a single win. That will make anybody hate a tank. I mean, come on. That's just terrible. Now, my stats have since then gotten a little bit better in this thing. Doing 1000 damage on average, it's still not great. It's still pretty poor, to be honest. But the thing is, you get this god-awful gun. Like, this gun is just... Let's take a better look here. Rate of fire of 5, not good. 175 penetration at tier 8, pretty bad. 0.46 accuracy, pretty bad. 3.4 second aim time, horrific. So you're left with a tank that has very shitty penetration for tier 8, facing tier 10s, where you need to hit weak spots, and then you have that aim time, plus that accuracy means you cannot hit weak spots, means you cannot do damage with this thing. And that's what I keep getting time and time again with this tank. The gun is just not aiming fast enough, so I have to either expose myself for a very long time and get shot to absolute hell, or I just fire without fully aiming and more than likely miss and bounce. So that has been my experience on this tank so far. Now don't get me wrong, I got this tank for a very good reason. I love to get this gun. Much better stats, way better penetration, better rate of fire, a little bit less damage but still good, much better accuracy, much better aim time. So I'm looking forward to getting this tank with the final gun. And I know it's a heavy, it's not supposed to be able to be super accurate and all that, but even at point blank range this gun will miss and bounce, both. It will miss and bounce. It's just so incredibly bad right now. This tank, literally, without the final gun, in my opinion, is unplayable. And I don't really fancy giving up all that free experience to get this thing, because it's 60k experience to forget the final gun. Ugh, that's more than, it's more than half of what I own right now. So that's why this thing made the list, not because this tank is bad, because it really is not. It's just the upgrade path of this thing is so bad that it makes me hate this tank and not want to play it. The final thing is good, just getting there is a pain in the ass. Now up to the next one, and the next one is pretty much the exact same issue. The ISU 152. Again, stop screaming in my earphones here. I know this is a good tank eventually, because when you're stuck on the sucky ass 122mm or the 152, this thing doesn't function. The 152mm just does nothing at tier 10. No. This thing is worthless with 152mm. 120mm is a little bit better, but again, it's 122mm. But the accuracy and aim time are a little bit better on this tank than on the 110 there. So it's a little bit more manageable, but still, this thing sucks balls until you get that final gun. Now again, don't get me wrong, once you get the final gun, this thing is gonna be amazeballs. But just to get there is painful. Excruciatingly painful, because none of these guns are actually functional on this tank. So yeah, that sucks. So this thing, again, finally, once it's fully researched, it's gonna be an amazing tank, but getting there right now in my garage, it sucks balls. And I actually don't want to play this thing. That's how bad it is. I'm getting nothing done in this thing. Like, I'm doing terrible. Victory ratio isn't bad. I've only played 12 games and I'm just fed up with this thing. Yeah, my stats are a little bit less than ideal, I would say. Average damage 800 is pretty damn poor for tier 8 TD. Damage received is pretty high. Yeah, it's just terrible. Let's get out of here. Ugh. No, I absolutely despise this tank in its current state. Like I said, the final version is going to be amazeballs, but getting there, ugh. So that was the ISU 152 at place number 7. Let's head over to number 6 on the list of worst tanks in my garage. And we'll keep on going. Where do we stop? Nobody knows. And we stopped. Where is it? Which one of these tanks is terrible? You already know it's not these two. If you are a long-time follower of the channel, you know that I love my T71, so that's not it. I'm a pretty big fan of the T34 as well. T29 I recently rebought for a reason. I like my Super Pershing. T69 is amazing. T14 is pretty awesome. M103 is actually number 11 on the list. I actually don't like this thing at all, and I pretty much stopped playing it. I haven't played it since December last year or something. It's been that long, half a year, not taking it out once. It's just, I'm not gonna get into it. It's place number 11. This is only top 10, so, but yeah, it's ugh. Anyways, there's only one tank left, I think. It's the T20. Now, some people seem to like this thing. I absolutely despise it. This gun, it does not handle as it is on paper at all. Not even close. When you actually play this thing, the rate of fire feels like it's about 6 or lower, like you're waiting for that reload all the time. The penetration of 160 technically should not be bad for a tier 7. It is, in fact, in reality, garbage, and it feels more like 140 penetration than it does 160. This thing bounces all the time. Damage, can't complain about that. Pretty good. When we get to the dispersion here, 0.38 is pretty terrible. Combine that with the okay penetration, meaning you are gonna bounce a lot. Ooh, that one. A lot of shells. And once you get to the aim time, 2.3 seconds, I call bullshizer. It is not 2.3. When you actually play this thing, the aim time feels like 2.5 seconds. Now, I know my crew isn't 100%. They're very, very close. But yeah, this thing does not handle, and I already have a vertical stabilizer and a rammer on here. I usually take binoculars with me to at least get a bit of a scout roll on, because, yeah. Now, overall, I would say this tank is pretty bad, and it just... Let's take a look at the stats here. Oh, not that. That one. Overall, I would say that this tank just does not handle as advertised. On paper, it doesn't look too bad, but in reality, it just doesn't function. I hit 70%. Nah. Not bad, not fantastic, since I usually aim my shots. 70%, not great. Survived 22%, that's actually really low. My average is about 30%, so it's lower than average that I survived. Victory ratio, I'm surprised it's even that high still. Damage ratio, less than 1, that's, in my opinion, for my own personal, what I think is good is bad. Destruction ratio is, armor use, of course, is garbage, but, vehicles destroyed is well below where I want it to be. My own personal, I want it to be here kind of setting is 1. So this is pretty bad for me. And spotted, So maximum destroyed 4. It's the best I could have done in 75 games. So yeah, I hate this thing. I absolutely despise this tank. Can't wait to get past it, but I still have a lot to go. What is it? 36k. Ugh. I could just free experience past it, but I kind of want to keep my free experience for tanks that are absolutely unplayable. And even then, I have more of those than I care to spend my free experience on. So that was the number 6 on our list. Let's head over to number 5. Is it on the screen? Yes, it is. Is it a T127? Nope. Is it the SU-85B? Nope. KV4? Nope. T54? Nope. First prototype? Nope. 13? Nope. We're getting closer though. Is the T3485M. This tank, I call scam. I looked in a forum before I bought this thing, and a lot of people were positive about this tank. Now, I have no idea what they were smoking, drinking, inhaling, or injecting at that moment, but this thing? Good? Yeah! I call bullshit. I'm sorry, bullshit. No, this thing is not good. This thing is worse in every way than a normal T3485. It is terrible. This thing gets okay armor at 75, good turret armor at 90, and it does bounce some things off there, but you are stuck with the most terrible gun that they nerfed into the ground like you've ever seen. It's ridiculous. 126 penetration is pretty damn low. Rate of fire of 11, or no, 11.5, but I think the normal one has 12, the T3485, so not great. Penetration, I'm pretty sure, is better on the normal one as well. Damage is the same. 0.42 accuracy is pretty horrific, and 2.5 second aiming time. Why did this need to be 2.5? I mean, seriously, why? There is no goddamn reason that this should have been 2.5. This aim time makes this tank completely unworkable. I've had to actually mount a gun laying drive and vents just to get that aim time down because it's that damn unacceptable and unplayable. This thing is terrible. I've bought it in a pretty good package with like a month's worth of premium and some gold, so the price in total wasn't too bad. I needed the premium at that point anyways, so I'm not complaining about the price, but this thing does not perform as advertised. It's not unplayable so much, but let's take a quick look at the stats here. Actually, it is unplayable. 43 games, 44% victory ratio, doing pretty damn terrible. Only a 60% hit rate. Damage ratio below 1, that's pretty bad. Armor, like I said, is it slopes, but spotted not too much. Only killed 4. This thing is just ugh. The tank itself isn't horrible if it wasn't for the gun that they nerfed into the ground. Let's quickly here go to the tech tree and grab the normal 85mm. And T3485. Let's compare it here. Rate of fire is actually better, surprisingly. But 144 penetration versus 126. That's quite a bit worse. 180 damage versus 160. Worse. 0.37 versus 0.42. Worse. 2.3 versus 2.5. It is pretty much worse in every single way except for rate of fire. But that rate of fire does not make up the difference of the rest of these stats at all. Not even close to making up. So this thing is a disaster. The gun is just unworkable on this tank. Maybe if you get a fully skilled crew and you get like all of the gunnery skills and that sort of shit on it, maybe that will be a little bit more acceptable, like snapshot and that sort of thing. But right now this gun is unacceptably bad, and this tank for it just doesn't function, sadly, because the tank itself isn't bad, it's just the gun that lets it down. Moving on to the number 4, we are actually right here, the T34. This thing is just god-awfully bad. It really is. I'm just trying to get to the A43 and just to go down that line. I've been trying it for a while because I really hate this thing, so I don't take it out very often. Just on occasion, but this thing. Let's take a look at, I have no idea what the stats for this thing are. 55% victory ratio. Hit rate 56%. Yeah, this gun on this thing is terrible. This gun will just miss and miss and miss. Destruction ratio of 1.3, not too bad. Damage ratio of 1.4, not too bad either. Not a lot of armor. Spotted, overall the stats are not god-awfully bad, but this thing is just so frustrating to play. Let's take a quick look at the gun here. Good rate of fire. Penetration is for tier 5, not bad. 85 damage is a bit on the low end, but good rate of fire. 0.34 accuracy, doesn't feel like it. Then again, I don't have a fully trained crew on here. I could not be asked to get a better crew on here because they're in different tanks. 2.3 second aiming time, feels more like 2.5, and the dispersion on this thing is really bad on the move and stuff. Like, this thing won't ever hit on the move, ever. So, overall, this tank, the mobility is okay, the armor is non-existent, this thing hardly ever bounces. The only good thing about this thing is you don't have to really worry if people are shooting your ass, because your ass armor is almost as good as your frontal armor, so there's that. Turret armor actually is not that fantastic, and has a big old weak spot, which is actually very easy to hit, but the rest of it is, I mean, who doesn't have 52 pen at tier 5? So, this thing gets pens pretty much all the time. And I need a sip of coffee, I've been talking a lot. Coffee. So, yeah, T34, it's just, compared to other tier 5s, this thing is just bad. There's just no way around it. I mean, let's compare it to an M4, do I even have to? Derp gun versus this gun. Even the 76mm gun on the M4 is much, much better than this gun. It's just a shitty gun. It really is, and that just destroys this entire tank. Now, I'm not gonna say that I hate like all of them, because I love the T3485. I actually did pretty well on it. T43 I even did well on, and that's pretty much the same gun. Slightly better, but not much. So, yeah, the T44 I hated. It was just a bad tank, but not as bad to make this list, and it's also not in my garage, so let's get on with the list here. I'm spending way too much time. Let's head over to number 3. Well, take a brief look here. Can you guess which one it is? It is the Amex 1375. I hate this thing with a bloody passion. Like, ugh. Yes, it's that bad. The Amex 1357, I love this thing. This thing, I hate. Now, if we look at the guns between these, technically, this is a worse gun. The damage per shot is less, the penetration is 1 less. The reload time of the two guns is the same. This one does 720, 730 average damage, I do believe, if I'm not mistaken. And this one does, I don't remember what it was, 6 times, I'm gonna do it real quick in my head here, I don't know, like 800 or so. So this one per clip does more damage, but this tank is just so much better. The dispersion is worse, like, the handling of everything is worse on that tank. I'm literally using the exact same crew in it too, so it's not the crew, it's not the experience of the crew. And this tank is just, well, let's take a look at the stats. Now, one thing before you just scream and go like, what the fuck? This is one of the first light tanks I owned in the game back way in the day, when the light tanks weren't rebalanced, when they saw tier 10 all the time. Yeah, so this was a long time ago. So these stats are still recovering from them. This is probably 3 years ago that I played this thing, and I was horrible at it. But I'm still horrible at it. My damage ratio is terrible, but then again, it's a scout, so you would think that it spots a lot. No. This thing, it's just a whole package. Like, it can't compete. Well, it is getting buffed in the next patch, and it is very necessary for this thing to get buffed, because it is just terrible. 390 view range, I don't know where they put that 390, but I don't get to use it. Let's take a look here. Statistics. If we take a look at the awards here, I have Scout twice. Now, I don't Suicide Scout, so, you know, I don't usually get to, I'm gonna die, but I spotted everyone once, and yay, that was my game. That's not how I play them. I play them a lot more sneaky. But I love my light tanks. I do pretty well on light tanks, but this thing, I can't do well. I cannot have a good game in this thing. It is too slow. The acceleration is too poor. The gun is too shitty to fight itself out of any combat. It can't get anywhere fast enough because the damn thing is too damn slow to spot anything. It's not stealthy enough because I don't know why, but this thing gets spotted across the damn map. I know I don't have camo on there, but I usually run this with binoculars and a camo net, so you would think that I wouldn't get spotted that easy, but no. And I am training my crew in camo, so... No, this thing is terrible, even though technically on paper the 1357 should be worse on paper. It is actually a much better tank than my 1375. This thing made number 3 for very good reasons, at least for me. I hate this thing, and I can't wait to get past it, but it's super slow going because I suck in it. Yeah, you can't get experience. So, anyways, let's move on to our number 2. And the number 2 is on screen right now. Can you spot it? I'll give you 2 seconds. It is this Sextant 1. I mean, come on. I got this thing as April Fool's joke, and it is just a joke of a tank. It is pretty much the same as the normal Sextant in the game, which is also tier 3, I take it? Yeah. It's pretty much the exact same tank, but I'm pretty sure it has worse gun handling, and that's about it. So you're left with a pretty shitty tank that's even shittier, and it's artillery. Do I need to say more? It's a Sextant. I think this thing is widely regarded as the worst premium in the game, probably. Yeah. Well, it's, you know, I still have it. Not a clue why, but I still have it. Who knows, maybe if there's ever an artillery event that I need to participate and tier 3 can participate, then I have something. That's never gonna happen, so it's just gonna sit here. Okay, for the number 1 shittiest tank in my garage, it is actually a joint number 1. And let's specify this a little bit more. It is a light tank. Well, they are light tanks. So that leaves these. Now, I'm thinking that some of you might already be able to guess what it's gonna be. It is the Combat Car and the PZ Ausf D, PZ2 Ausf D. These two tanks are very similar in playstyle as well as in guns, and they're terrible. Absolutely god-awfully terrible. The penetration is so shit that you will come across tanks that you cannot even penetrate at all. You will unload a full clip into their ass and still bounce, and that's tanks your own tier. Don't even get me started on tanks that are above your tier. These things are horrible. just the guns. The rest is okay. The mobility is good, but the guns are just absolutely unworkable, and it's just comical to play these things. Sit in front of somebody, unload your entire clip into their weak spots, and then not penetrate a single shell. And yes, that happens a lot. As you can see, these are actually tier 1 guns on tier 2 tanks. They were gift tanks, and I still have them for one reason only. They actually make crew experience pretty decently. What the thing that a lot of people don't know is the lower tier the tank is, the better bonus experience the tank will get. So these tanks actually get about 60 to 70% bonus experience. So if you have a game where you make 300 experience, if you play it in, just let's compare this one to, I don't know, take some other tier 2 tank. A normal tier 2 will make 300 experience. This one will make 70% extra, so instead of 300 you'll make 500 or so experience. Which for crew is not bad, and if you do that with 5 times experience events, you actually make a decent amount. And if you have crew training on, like I do, you can actually rake up quite a decent bit of crew experience on these things, compared to not using these. So these low tier things, while being shitty as all hell, they still, because of their multiplier for premium vehicles, make quite a decent amount of experience. Let's take a look. I don't know if it actually shows in here or not. No, you just get the base experience. You can't see it here. I was going to look if you could see the amount of experience you get in these things. As you can see, it's pretty poor. Yeah, this thing, 38% win rate. I don't play these things seriously either, but this thing at least has somewhat of a victory ratio. Yeah, but then again, I never claimed to be the world's best tanker. I might, but it's not true. Actually, my most played tanks here, you'll see that I'm a little bit better than some of the low tier, but there's some pretty horrific ones in here as well, like that one. Ugh, Comet, hated it. But I never shot premium in it, but I hated it. But as you can see, it was a long time ago, before these stats were in the game. I don't remember when these came in, 8.8 or something, I think. So that was a long time ago that I played this thing. I think before 8.8. So anyways, that was today's episode. Let me know what you guys think, and what do you guys think about your worst tank in your garage, or in my garage, if you see anything that's worse that I might do well on that you hate. Let me know in the comments down below, and let me know what you think of these kind of episodes. Do you want to see more of these? Of course, I'll be doing gameplay more than these, but just once in a while, do you want to see a episode like this, where I just go through and talk about some shit? Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.